I want to thank everybody for their patience and, of course, welcome you to this first conference call of Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failures, Blessings. So let me just bring everybody up to date with where we are in terms of our goals and objectives. Of course, our goal is to get 36 to 37 co-authors of this wonderful book, Mission Unstoppable, co-authored, headed up by myself and Susan Taylor and Dr. Randall Pinkett. We will be the lead authors, and the objective here is to find 36 to 37 other authors who have a remarkable story to tell about a singular or perhaps a combination of failures that has occurred in your life that has brought you through the valley of death and has proven to be a blessing. I know that I have had many failures. I've basically have failed my way to success. The key, though, is I fail fast. I don't hang around my failures too long. I get in and I get out. I learn the lesson, and then I move on to the next thing in life. And what we learn as we grow older and wiser is that if we don't learn from our lessons, God, in His infinite wisdom, has designed it so that we will just keep repeating the lesson until we learn it. And we all know people who make the same mistake over and over and over and over. You know, people who marry 6 people. They happen to all be the same type of people. And they go from one relationship or one marriage to the next marriage to the next marriage, and they just have not learned from their mistakes, or they go from, they've had 20 jobs, and there's nothing wrong with having multiple jobs in life. I mean, certainly I've had 20 jobs over my 67 years of living, but each of those, beginning when I was 10 years old, but each of those jobs have taught me new lessons, and I've taken those lessons and leveraged those lessons for the next step in my life. So our goal here is to find 36 other authors who are bold enough, quite frankly, and who will take the risk of telling a story, being transparent enough to tell a story about their singular or perhaps a couple of failures that they have learned from in life. All of you should have gotten from me my little outline. I had a 2-part outline to frame the story that I'm going to talk about. And you noticed it in part 1, and I hope that you've all read it, because I think the way that I've crafted my little outline is a good way to begin crafting each of our outlines, so that when we talk with the writers, because you don't have to write this story, okay? We have top-notch writers. That's one of the things you're paying for. Is we have top-notch writer who will take in your story, absorb it, and write it in a powerful way in your voice. But in order to do that, we have to communicate both written and verbally, because you'll all be interviewed for an hour or two. But the best way and the most productive and effective way to do an interview like this, because I've done this at least 10 times, is to provide a riveting outline, some piece of paper that your interviewer can refer to and prepare questions and pepper you with questions and insights that will pull the best story out of you. And I think that the best way to write a great story is to begin with the end in mind. And I think it's a two-part end, brothers and sisters. First is, what lesson would you like to teach? You've had many. You can't tell people your life story. You can give them a synopsis of your life, but this is not a biography. It's about a lesson that you have learned down your path and road to the life that you're leading at this moment in time. So, what lesson would you like to leave people? The greatest book ever written, as everybody listening to me today knows, that it is the Bible. Why? Because it's the greatest stories ever told. Be it Jonah and the whale, be it Moses and the Pharaoh, be it Adam and Eve. For those of you that are churchgoers, it's endless, incredible stories, and each story, as we read it, has a profound lesson. It's the greatest lessons ever taught the world. That's why it's the greatest book ever written. So now we're going to write the second greatest book ever written, and we're going to have 36 to 37 great stories that leave people with great lessons. Okay? I think the other thing for those that are aspiring authors, in other words, that at some point in time, each of you may want to do your own thing. You may want to have your own book. Okay? So this is a great way to engage a very experienced team of people, myself, Susan Taylor, and Randall Pinkett. Both of us have had at least 2 to 3 books each, bestsellers, and so we know how to write a book. We know how to package a book. We know how to market a book. We know what is required to make a book a bestseller. So let me give you some reference on that. There are about 300,000 books printed every year. About 150 to 175 make the New York Times bestsellers list. There are other bestsellers lists. There's the USA Today bestsellers list. There's the Amazon bestsellers list. There's the Essence Magazine bestsellers list. There's the Washington Post bestsellers list. There's the LA Times bestsellers list. There are a number of bestsellers lists. But when you look at the books and you aggregate all of the books that are on the combination of bestsellers lists that come out every week and every month, there's probably no more than 500 books a year that makes any bestsellers list. A lot of those books are duplicated. Typically, if there are 20 books on the New York Times nonfiction, those books will stay up there 5, 10, 15, 20, some 52, some weeks, some 3 or 4 years. And a lot of those books that are on the New York Times bestsellers list would be duplicated on the USA Today, but then there would be some that are different because they calculate them differently, et cetera, et cetera. The ones that are on the Amazon bestsellers may differ from the ones on the New York Times bestseller because they calculate them differently. So reaching a bestseller status as an author is more than a notion, and it really takes plotting and planning. But it begins with a great book. It begins with great stuff. It begins with great content. It begins with great stories, whether it's a novel or whether it is nonfiction. It begins with great content. But the problem is, in the world of book publishing, there are lots of great books out here with great content that actually don't sell very well. People don't know about them. People don't buy them. And the statistic that is harrowing in this publishing world is that 99% of all books written in a single year sell less than 5,000 copies. So the overwhelming majority of books written, I don't care how good they are, don't sell very well. So it really takes understanding of the marketplace, packaging, and teamwork and coordination to put a book on a bestsellers list. I just happen to think that with 36 or 7 people or 40 people working at the same thing, leveraging their networks, their Facebook pages, their social media access, that it is a path towards bestsellership. So I think the objective, a secondary objective for all of you, is to create a great story with a great title that can become a standalone spin-off book. In other words, you could use this story and even perhaps the title, if it's crafted well enough, and spin it off. And we see spin-offs on television all the time. A great series, if there's a great character within that series, they spin off and become a series by itself. The same thing with this book. And if I were you, and I don't know if you've been thinking about this, but I would think about it. As you think about your story, as you think about your title, think about 2 years down the road how this can be a spin-off book for you. Okay? So, story is number one, and then title is number two. Now, in my case, I've come up with several titles, and I call them working titles. And you need to come up with some great working titles. One of my titles, if you've read my article, is From the Hall of Shame to the Hall of Fame, right? My Death Before Life, which is a sort of a juxtaposition of words. The other title I'm working on and thinking about is How an Average Student Became Amazing instead of an amazing student who became average. And so you want to think about your title. Titles are part of the packaging of a book, and it's everything. And I don't care how good the content is, if the packaging, and I learned this at 13, with spending 13 years with Procter & Gamble, selling toothpaste, deodorant, and mouthwash, because a toothpaste is a toothpaste is a toothpaste. There are 10 of them out there. The question is how you package your product, what it looks like on the shelf, what you call it. And we spent millions of dollars coming up with the name Crest and Sure deodorant and Scope toothpaste. You don't think that just happened, right? Mm-hmm. Focus groups and millions of dollars of thinking about how to package our mouthwash so that it would be framed and positioned differently than the 10 other mouthwashes that were on the market or the 300,000 other books that we will be competing with. So we believe that Mission Unstoppable, Extraordinary Stories of Failure's Blessings is a pretty good name for a book. And then when people open up the book, I mean, hopefully they'll be attracted to the book enough to see Susan's face, to see my face, to see Dr. Pinkett's face. And if you decide that you want on the packaging your face, because there's an option for you to do that, your face, that people will at least that would pique their curiosity, and then they're going to open up the book, and then they're going to do exactly what you do when you go to buy a book, or it's certainly exactly what I do, and I'm going to look at the chapter titles. That's what I'm going to look at. That's the first thing. If the cover attracts me, I ain't going to open the book and start reading it. I'm going to go right to the table of contents and look at the chapter titles. And each of you are creating your own chapter title for your story. So we want great chapter titles. Chapter titles that will provoke. Chapter titles that will pique people's interest. Chapter titles that will have them go, aha. Chapter titles that say something just in the chapter title that draws them into the story. This is really the art and science, really, if you read newspapers and magazines, there's somebody at the New York Times, and their only job is to come up with the title for the article they want you to read. That's their only job. Then there's one person at the New York Times, their only job is to come up with the headline that will be above the fold for the newspaper that day. Their only job in the world is to do that. So this is easy to say. This is extraordinarily difficult to do, and I will be awesomely critical because I will not allow a chapter title that does not grab somebody by the throat. Right? So far, none of the chapter titles that you have come up with, all of you that I've gotten, are good enough. Good start. A good start, and we got to start somewhere. But the titles aren't good enough. Okay? I just finished doing an outline for a book that I'm writing with my sister. And I might have mentioned this to you, and I should send you this outline, although it is confidential. Let me see if I can find it. And it is the title of the book is extraordinary, but what is even more extraordinary are the 13 chapter titles that we came up with. And then once you get the chapter title, this is how you write a book, then you get a little bit more granular, and it says, okay, this is the chapter title. This is beginning with the end in mind. Now I'm going to flush out what I'm going to talk about as it relates to this particular chapter title that I absolutely love. Okay? So, now I'm just going to, this is an exercise that we're going through, and so I want to sort of cover this with you because I just want to seed your thinking around how you craft your chapter title, and then ultimately...
Yeah, take care. Yep, I'll be there.
I'm sorry, are you talking to me? Hello?
No, sorry about that. Nope.
Okay. How you will craft your chapter title, and then once you craft your chapter title, this is beginning with the end in mind, how your story will be relevant to your chapter title, okay? So the title of this book that I'm writing with my sister that will not be out for a couple of years, but you see how long it takes really to write a book. And everybody on this call will appreciate this. The title of the book is called Negro Please. But we spell Negro, Negrow. And we spell Please, Pleaz, with a hyphen. Now, if you're black and living in America, you know that's a spin-off of a negative phrase, or sometimes the terms of endearment in our community, right? Mm-hmm. Except in this particular case, it is a plea. It is not an admonition. It's a plea. It's Negro, please. In other words, Negro, please, grow. Grow. We need to grow, right? So that's the title of the book. And the subtitle is The Next Generation's Manifesto and Guide to Unlimited Success, okay? So, here are some of the chapter titles. These are called the working chapter titles, all right? So when people open up the book and begin reading the chapter titles, what we're hoping to do is grab them by the throat, and they will want to either be provoked, or they will want to know more, or they will be incensed, or they will be excited, or they will laugh, or they will go, what? Something that will get their attention. So here's chapter title number 1 for Negro, please. Black people are insane. We are the only species on earth that will not act in its own best interest. That's a quote from Dr. Naeem Akbar. Black people are insane. Now, we have 6 or 7 things that we're going to talk about in that chapter, okay? Why we are wounded, fixing our woundedness, visiting the motherland and teaching our history at home and in church, rites of passage and what it means and how it can help our community going forward, okay? So that's just the first stages of what we're going to talk about in that chapter, right? The second chapter, you would have heard this quote. And we took quotes from famous people, and we decided to use them this chapter. And the second chapter title is, I love black people, but I hate niggas. Chris Rock said that. And what will this chapter be about is, what is a nigger, right? Hip-hop and sagging is black on the real. Modeling, mentoring, and adapting old school is now new school, okay? I love black people, but I hate niggas. That's one of the chapters, all right? All right. Another chapter is, we have everything we need to succeed except each other. That's a quote from me. Another chapter is a controversial chapter title, but it really leads for a very provocative discussion that we need to have in our community. And this is a quote from Jay-Z, the great genius, hip-hop god, Jay-Z. And here's what Jay-Z said. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Right? Why have we turned our women into bitches and our children into bastards? 70% of our children are born out of wedlock. 50% of their children drop out of high school. What's up with that? Where are black men, and why are they hiding? You see where I'm going, everybody? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Chapter title number 5. If you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book.
In a book.
It's been around a long, long time. Moving from an oral culture to an archival culture. Writing and telling our stories, brothers and sisters. This is exactly what we're getting ready to do. And fighting the stereotypes, right? Fighting our 76 hours per week of TV addiction. That's what black people watch every single week. 76 hours of television. We watch 40% more television than white people. Okay? So that's chapter title number 5. Chapter title number 6 is, we must stop buying cars and renting homes. We have it ass backwards. Right? Right? Closing the income and wealth gap. The Moses Movement, the 10 Commitments to Financial Freedom. Why wealth? 6 life-changing reasons on why we should be focusing on wealth, and then the intergenerational transfer. So I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to talk any more about that. I just wanted to give you some sense of great stories and great titles. That's what makes a great book. And that's what we're going to have. We're going to have a great book. We're not going to publish it unless it's great. Why? Because my name is attached to it. Susan Taylor's name is attached to it. Dr. Randall Pinkett's name is attached to it. And just as importantly, your name is attached to it. And I don't deal in averageness or mediocrity, and I know that you don't. So I'm not putting anything out there that's average or mediocre. If it ain't amazing, my name won't be attached to it. And neither should yours. So to reach that, to do that, we have to do the work. Amazing just doesn't happen. It happens when we put our best foot forward, do our most creative thinking, when we think outside of the box, when we are transparent, when we take risks, right? When we say, this is going to be a story that I will be able to tell when I speak or when I write something else for the rest of my life. It's going to be a story that provides our people a reinforcement of a lesson of a lifetime. Now, one of the other things I think you ought to think about as you think about your story And as you think about your title, I want you to think about your favorite quote, be it secular or non-secular. And you may want to, and this is a trick that I use when I write all my books, just look at them. Every chapter has a title, but underneath the title is a quote. Doesn't have to be my quote. Sometimes it's a biblical quote. Sometimes it's a famous quote from a famous person. But what is your favorite quote, and does it relate to your story? Here's what I've learned, and I have to admit who taught me this. Dennis Kimbrough, my colleague and a writer of 3 best-selling books, said to me when I was writing Success Runs in Our Race 20 years ago, which is my modern-day classic, he says, George, I know you have lots of opinions and lots of ideas, but when writing a book, you have to validate it, in a sense, as you write it, by who says so other than you. Who says so other than you? So don't feel that belittled by having to quote somebody else. Does that make sense? If it comes to that. So think about your favorite either secular or non-secular quote. And how does that tie into your inspiring story? And it could be a biblical passage. It could be something from Proverbs. It could be, it's the greatest book ever written. There's anything to be said, quite frankly, brothers and sisters, that is not already said in the Bible. There are no great ideas. There are no new ideas. It's all been said, and it's all been written. You're not going to come up with anything new. It's not possible. What will be new is your perspective based on your story. And no one has had your perspective or your story ever in the history of humankind. That's what makes you totally unique. No one has had your experiences in the sequence in which you have had those experiences ever in the history of the world. So your 37-person quest, which means we're about halfway there. We will not write the book until we have at least 25 people. If we can't find 25 people that want to join us on this journey, I fully believe that we will. But if we don't, we won't do it. But I think we will. We need, because we're dealing with an issue of critical mass. There's a formula. There's an algorithm to how we want to handle this. And it requires 36 to 37 people. So I want to put an offer. Before I put the offer out there, let me ask for your feedback, your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas on what I just said.
George, this is Jilla.
Hi, Jilla.
In terms of the 25 minimum number of people when we're at 14, as we think about our own marketing plans for our business, what's the timeline in terms of go, no-go relative to moving forward with the book?
Well, everybody knows that the release date is not until next June. So we've got a month or two to get the people that we need to get, and I'm going to start a new marketing program, and I've gotten 2 new people really in just the last 10 days. So I say it's a go, no-go, Jilla, by Christmas, because we're going to do a lot of the preliminary work, as we're doing now, so that when we pull the trigger, we will have a running start. So but I have confidence that we will find the people. We've had 103 people request more information, listen to the past audios that we have done when we introduced it, and out of those 101, 16 or so, 14 or so, I'm not counting myself, Susan, and Randall, have committed. Okay, because it's a fairly serious project. It's not right for everybody, but it's certainly right for those who have a story to tell, who are aspiring authors, who want to learn and grow and be a part of something bigger than themselves. We have a new website. I hope all of you have been to FraserMissionUnstoppable.com. So there's a new website about the project, and so I want to make each of you an offer. If any of you have a friend, and this is not for everybody, so you would have to evaluate your friendships and your friends that might be interested in joining us in this project. If you bring them to the table and they invest in this project, for each person that you bring, I will give you $1,000. So in effect, you can take that off the price of what you pay. So that is the offer I want to put on the table to everyone that has joined us in this project. So it would be your responsibility to apprise them of what it is, send them to the website, help them understand what your role is, what your thoughts are about it, and see if it makes sense for them. Now, the interesting thing, and this is always the case, and I know you sisters out here understand this, we have mostly women. It's mostly women. We got 2 brothers. So it's mostly women. We need some more black male stories. So that would be good. But, if it ends up being, mostly women, then that's what it is. So I just wanted to be transparent and just put it out there and then ask for your thoughts.
Hi, George. This is Jessica. I think that what you said today is great. As you were speaking, actually, I was getting excited. Just excited about the project, excited about all of us coming together, and really what this project will mean for everyone. And I think just not necessarily the benefits that we receive, but I think the lessons that people will learn from reading this. And I think that in itself is a blessing. But I think I like your approach of us taking responsibility to help make this project happen. I think that piece is really important too. I think we all are invested in this, and so I think that to me what you're saying makes perfect sense. And I'm already, I've got a couple people I can think of right now that I may be able to just give this offer to. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for that. The one question I did have is, when we talk about these stories, are you looking for stories that are more professional in nature or more personal or a combination of both?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. It could be a professional. I'm looking for failure. I'm looking for everybody to tell us a gut-wrenching story, whether you failed on the job, or whether you failed entrepreneurially, or there's some personal, or there's one person who's talking. I mean, it was just beautifully stated. Let's see if I can find. I think it was Carmen, who had a broken marriage, It wasn't Carmen. Although Carmen's thing is, her outline is very good. But her story was about the brokenness of her marriage, and that she knew, and I'll find it here, but because I think you're on the phone. She knew that the marriage was a failure from the day they went on the honeymoon, which I thought was really provocative, right? And then she expanded on that. So it could be about a relationship, but again, something that taught you lesson that changed the trajectory of your life.
Right. I hear you.
You understand? That changed the trajectory of your life. You were going in one direction, ran head first into a wall, right? Took your beating,
yes,
right? Bounced off the wall.
Yeah.
And so that comes in all flavors, in all stages, in all places of our life.
Yeah, yes it does. Yes it does. Okay.
Right? So,
right.
I mean, there would be nobody on here that has not failed their way to success. That's the only way you're going to get there.
Yeah.
You're going to fail first. Right? So now you just have to cull through your failures and figure out which one you want to talk about, which one changed the trajectory of your life.
Got it.
Right? And so you can make it about anything.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was just going back and forth between two, but I know which one I'm going to go with then. So, okay. Thank you.
And so, again, this is very easy to say. It's extraordinarily difficult to do. In fact, this is why most people don't write. Most people don't write because they don't have the courage, right, to dig deep enough inside of them, right, to keep their writing on the surface, right, and try, and hide some of the pain that has come out of the living of life. And writing, anybody that writes knows it's a very painful process. I mean, even if you're writing fiction, because fiction comes out of your life, right? You're just hiding it. You're just putting different names on it. So, but it's a very, very trying process, but it's very rewarding because, again, you reinforce lessons that we have to learn over and over and over. And now, how do we know we have to learn them over? We know this from when we were children, right? What did our parents tell us endlessly? What did they say to us endlessly? How many times am I going to have to tell you to stop this or that or this, right? They had to tell us 50 times, not one time. Right? So that's life. Right? That's how life is, right? You don't just learn it one time. You see it and learn it. No. Most life doesn't happen that way. All right? So we are going to talk about lessons in life that would not be different than any lessons that have already been written, except we're going to write them from our perspective and out of our experience. And that's what's interesting to people. People want stories. Great stories.
George, this is Janice from Kentucky.
Hi, Janice from Kentucky.
I had a question. On the outlines that we have sent you, I see I may have some of the things that you've talked about, the subtitles or a quote, and what it personally meant to me. And sometimes I think I may be writing a little safe, like so you don't want to put all out there and put just what you think is the meat. I was just wondering, are you going to critique our outlines and send us back?
Of course, absolutely.
See if we're in the ball game, because you have them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
that would help because I have your outline. I'm looking
right
here at the call, and when I saw that, I go, boy, maybe I need to reframe mine and put it in this format again. And I can keep up with you if you just show me.
That's right. And
if you just kind of tell me what you want, because I learned this in school. All my instructors, you read my story, and I graduated 4.0, and I was struggling through chemo and blah, blah, blah. But I've told my children, and it works. When you know your teacher and you follow and give it to him exactly what he wants, I always got an A every time.
That's right. That's right. That's good. I'm glad you said that because I deeply
and I like getting A's.
We're going to get an A on this, and remember now.
So you just tell me how you want it, what to do it, and I can follow. I can follow instruction.
I have a system for getting A's. So you've heard me say this before. If you want to get an A, you got to hang with people to get A's, right? Because there's a system for an A, right? System for a B, and there's a system for a C. So if you're getting B's and C's, right, that means you have a system only to get B's and C's, and if you want to get A's, you got to hang with people getting A's.
That's right.
Susan gets A's, Randall Pinkett gets A's, I get A's. That's what we get. We have a system for that, right? So if you follow the system, which is what we're going to teach you, we're going to show you, because I deeply believe that if we knew better, we would do better. We just need to know better. Somebody has to guide us and coach us and to teach us. That's all. It's no more complicated, because we're all smart. We all have the brain power to do it. I'm no smarter than anybody on this phone call, right? The only difference perhaps between me and you and why I have 3 best-selling books is I hung out with people who wrote books and had best-selling books. I just hung with them. I just did what they told me to do.
So, like I said, on my own, when you sent that Mission Unstoppable Extra, your love, I said, wow, I need to go back and take mine and put mine in this format and see how it looks. And I go, I can do that.
Yeah, of course you can do it. That's why I sent it to everybody. So I want everybody to look at it. If you don't have it, just call me or email me. I'll send it to you again. Look at that. Look at how I framed it, right? How I positioned it, and how I ended it, right? And how I ended it is, I said, this was on part 2. I said, I started at the bottom rung with the Kool-Aid stand at 10 years old and finished at the top at 66 years old when I was inducted into the Minority Business Hall of Fame and Museum, and with the likes of John H. Johnson and Earl Graves and Kathy Hughes. And yes, this was just one of many of my stories on how I failed my way to the top. Now, why failing my way to the top? Because all great success begins with failure. Michael Jordan failed to make his high school basketball team because he couldn't shoot. Babe Ruth struck out more times than he hit home runs, and famed neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson couldn't read. Each learned, applied themselves, and then eventually excelled to the top of their game. I'm famous for being a speaker, but for years I couldn't speak in public, and I avoided it like the plague. The fear of speaking so gripped my psyche, I would feel faint and profusely sweat when asked to stand and say even my name in front of any size audience. One-on-one, I was comfortable, and many would say great, but more than one, watch out, Tim Burr. I remember one story that particularly stands out, and it stands out because I almost passed out giving a big presentation to top executives for a large grocery chain. I had just been, and then I go on and tell the story. So you see how I started. If you look at my outline, I started with the big picture. Here's who I am. Here's my litany of things that I've done, and then I narrowed the whole thing down to a particular thing, a particular story. Right? Now, people who watch me speak would never, ever think that I was paralyzed by speaking many years ago, right? And I had to do something to overcome that. And when I did, it changed the trajectory of my life. That's why I'm writing about it. And now I make millions of dollars just speaking. And I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you there's something that happened in your life, something we failed at, you failed at, that when you came to grips with it, when you dealt with it, when you faced it down, it changed the trajectory of your life. So, Also understand, brothers and sisters, there hasn't been a book done like this in the black community. This is the first sort of co-authored compilation book by three major authors in combination with co-authors. This has not been done before. This is new ground that we are plowing here. And so we certainly, all of us, intend and expect to make this the standard by which all other compilation books will be judged going forward. We will set the pace. There will be others, but they will have to meet our standard. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
George, you have inspiring stories. Thank you for sharing. And I'm just struggling.
All right.
Let me ask you, George, again. This is Jola. I'm intrigued with the offer to help bring on additional authors. I just want to be clear around the ask, and that is still a $69.95 and publishing in June of next year is the guideline we should be sharing.
Absolutely. Our goal is to have this book ready for the public for the Power Networking Conference, so that we can do our tour party, our book party, launch party at the Power Network.
Some marketing kinds of things. So it's inspired that idea, as I heard Fran is also one of the authors, and we've done some BDPA work together in the past. So it's just generating some thoughts in terms of how we might be able to help bring on board quicker the authors that we need.
That's right. Well, here's what you can do. I feel you. I agree with you 1,000%, because it takes teamwork to make the dream work. I think leverage and edification is everything in doing a project like this, a groundbreaking, bleeding edge project like this. You know that the payday is $1,000, okay? And if you want to do something in partnership with some other institution or organization that you know, love, respect, and trust, and you can tee it up that this is what we're trying to do. Here's the project. Here's the website, because you just send them to the website. Everything they need to know is right on the website, including the audio from the first introduction of the project that we recorded a couple of months ago, and say to folks that if you provide me with some leads, and I talk with whatever leads you provide me with, here's a split of this $1,000. I mean, you can cut it up any way you want to cut it up. You can say, I'll give you, $300 for any leads that are closed, or $500, or whatever you feel like you want to do. But the number is $1,000, and how you use that $1,000 is entirely up to you, or anybody on this call. Any other questions?
Other than George, this is Janice again in Kentucky. You're going to critique and send it back to us, our outlines?
I'm going to have, I'll probably call you.
Okay.
But I can say that all of the ones that I have thus far, work needs to be done on titling.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who's listening, and everybody's going to get this recording, because I've read them all several times. And, they are, all of them are if I were to grade them like a teacher, between C's and B's.
Okay.
Nothing, I didn't see anything A yet, right?
Okay.
But that's partly due because we didn't have this conversation, right? As someone said it earlier, it's about direction. and being specific. So I think this is a healthy conversation. It's an honest and transparent conversation. This will hopefully motivate everybody to step up their game, to think about their story differently, to begin thinking about their title. Right? They have a model now they can look at. They can look at my model that I sent out to everybody. Right? So I would suggest to anybody listening to this call is that you revisit what you sent me. Think about your title, think about your quote, and think about the specificity of your story.
Okay. So my plan would be is to go ahead. I'm going to put it in the format of your model and send it back to you. Okay.
Right.
All right.
That model that I sent out will be a really good model for the writer. Good model for the writer. Because the more you can give the writer, the greater the sense that the writer will have of who you are, and the better the questions that she's going to or he's going to craft to get the story that he needs to write the story. Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, George, New Love. The stories that you've read, have you seen any real close similarities? Similarities that maybe we need to change direction, one or the other of the persons that have written them?
No, I think everybody. There are no exceptions. Everybody put on a piece of paper as best as they could what they felt about, what they felt they wanted to tell a story about. And so I want you to expand on that. Now, what I'm going to have to do, once all the stories and we get them tight, and we get good themes and good titles, I'll have to look for duplication, because we don't want 36 of the same points, the same lessons, right? We want a variety of lessons. But I think we start with you, each of you, telling in a heartfelt way what you want to tell. I think we go there first. And then this is all part of this is for those of you who've written books, this is called editing. And the editing process is brutal. It's brutal, right? And I once asked my editor, when I was writing Success Runs in Our Race, I said, how will you know when my book is finished? And you know what my editor said to me? When I take it from you. In other words, you'll never finish it, right? There will always be something that you will be tweaking and adding to it, right? So the editing process is a tough part of all writing, right? So we're not even there yet. First, we get the stuff, and then we begin the editing process. But the whole book comes together in a synergistic kind of way. So there could be two stories on accountability or responsibility, that's possible. You could have two stories with similar lessons, but if they're different kind of stories, it's okay. There are lots of similar stories in the Bible, just teaching lessons different ways, the same lessons different ways. So that's perfectly acceptable, but that's all part of the editing process. It's too early. So right now I'm just saying, shoot your best shot.
And
then we'll see
George, it's Janice. Oh.
Yeah.
In that format that you gave us, you asked the three questions, and for us to specifically give it back to you, it says, where in life did you fail? And you told us to write a sentence. Mm-hmm. What did you learn? And the single lesson that you wanted to teach. So when we filled that format out, those are what you would be looking at to see if they were similar or the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we followed that format, I mean, that's what...
Yeah, some people followed it, some people didn't.
Okay.
But that's, you're right. I mean, if everyone had followed it, we probably would be in a little different position. But you know, I'll keep going through it because the writing process is what I call a stewing process. You constantly are thinking about it. That's why it's such a painful process, because it's like cooking, and you're adding ingredients, and you don't want to overcook, and you don't want to put too much of this. And I mean, it's complex. So I'm constantly thinking about and reviewing all the stuff that you're sending me, and just figuring out where the pieces of the puzzle go.
And I know it puts a lot of work on you because you're the one that has to go through all this. However, as we follow your model, I'll put all that in the model, but I specifically answered those 3 questions. And either it is, specifically where I failed, and what did I learn in the lesson that I wanted to teach, which, like I said, makes it easier for you and for you to compare them to see if we're
That's right.
in
That's
different places.
right. Everybody would start with that, and then get a little bit more granular. Talk about, what is that lesson? Where did that experience happen? Mm-hmm. As I did at the end of my little overview. As I said, if you look at my overview, I started really big. It's who I am, where I'm from, right? And then ended it very granular, right down to a presentation I was making where I almost fainted. Mm-hmm. And what happened and what I learned.
And also I included my references because I did use quotes.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And people are going to want to know something about you. Something about you. No question about that. So that's, the writers will figure out how to do all that. So there'll be something in there about you. But most importantly, they'll be interested in your story. Anything else?
Joyce, this is Joa.
Yeah, Joa.
I would just like to offer a concept to possibly have you think about and the rest of the team. As I listened to your story and as I heard Janice's questions, and as I continue to struggle with the trajectory of my story, I'm wondering if it would be helpful to potentially have a call or a way to share outlines with each other so that we can maybe give each other feedback on what resonates, what gets us excited. Certainly the call with you was just amazing, but I'm still struggling to come to my own story. So that's just a suggestion.
That's a great suggestion, and I will take that suggestion under serious advisement. That's really a mastermind call.
Yes.
Mastermind call. That's really what you're talking about. Let us sit around the table, metaphorically, and brainstorm a little bit about our stories. And I think it's a great idea, and we'll do it. And we'll do it by the first week. I want to make sure that everybody gets this call and listens to this call, because half the people were not on this call. I think only 6 of the 14 people. And make sure they get this call, and then probably by the first part of November, we'll do a mastermind call. That's a great idea.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great idea. Absolutely. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Additions? Deletions? Well, you've been very generous.
George, I'll resend my outline to you, so you will have that. I'll make sure you have that by Wednesday. So.
Okay, please. And Fran, I need something from you. Okay?
Okay.
So,
you got it, George.
Okay. So you've been very generous with your time. I promise I'd only take an hour. I've taken a little bit more than an hour. But I think it's been very helpful, certainly been very helpful to me. I'm very excited about this and a little bit scared because it's new. Never done it before, but my excitement overwhelms my fear, and we press on. So I truly appreciate all of you for investing in this project and in this idea, and most importantly for investing in yourself. It is one of those projects, I promise you, that you cannot lose. Will only grow from it. So thank you very much. You have a great Sunday evening, whatever's left of your Sunday. And I will be back at all of you individually, and then with a notification of, we're going to call it sort of a mastermind call to nail down our stories. Okay? All righty. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
George.
Thank you, George.
And everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.